The Egyptian sun hung high in the cloudless sky, casting sharp shadows over the barren desert. The excavation site buzzed with activity as workers methodically sifted through centuries of sand that had blanketed the ancient ruins. Among them was Dr. Lila Ahmed, her face partially hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat that shielded her from the relentless heat. Her olive-toned skin glistened with sweat, and yet her eyes sparkled with determination. For weeks, her team had been excavating a site near Saqqara, a stone's throw from the Step Pyramid. This region, known as the necropolis of Memphis, had been a focal point for archaeologists for decades. While many sought treasure or tangible relics of the past, Lila's interest lay in decoding the philosophical and spiritual fabric of ancient Egypt. What motivated the builders of the pyramids? What truths did they weave into their myths? Today, however, her focus was singular. She crouched beside a limestone slab that protruded stubbornly from the sand, brushing away the grit with delicate strokes of her trowel. Dr. Ahmed called Amir Hassan, her colleague and closest friend on the dig, as he approached with a bottle of water. "Still working on that piece? It's been hours." "Just look at it, Amir," Lila said without looking up. Her voice carried the quiet awe of someone on the brink of discovery. "This isn't just another fragment of history. There's something different about this one." Amir tilted his head, his curiosity piqued. Over the years, he had learned to trust Lila's instincts. She had a knack for sensing significance in the smallest of details. Kneeling beside her, he scrutinized the etched hieroglyphs. At first glance, they seemed like any other ceremonial text, a prayer to the gods, perhaps, or a record of offerings. But as his eyes traced the symbols, he realized something was amiss. "This isn't typical," Amir murmured. "The arrangement, it's almost mathematical." "Exactly," Lila replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "These glyphs aren't just decorative or ritualistic. They're structured. Look here. This symbol represents Ma'at, the goddess of truth and balance. And here, the scales and the feather. The weighing of the heart ceremony," Amir said, nodding. "But that's allegory, isn't it? A symbolic judgment in the afterlife." Lila's fingers hovered over the slab as if she were afraid to disturb its secrets. "That's what we've always believed. But what if it wasn't just allegory? What if it was something more?" Amir leaned back, his skepticism tempered by curiosity. "You're suggesting the ceremony wasn't symbolic?" "I'm suggesting it was a system," Lila said. "A formula." Over the next few days, Lila and Amir worked tirelessly to unearth the rest of the limestone slab. What they revealed was breathtaking, a series of interconnected glyphs arranged in a grid-like formation, unlike anything they had ever seen. Each symbol seemed to correspond to another, forming a pattern that was both intricate and deliberate. Lila spent sleepless nights poring over her notes, cross-referencing the slab symbols with known hieroglyphic lexicons. By the end of the week, she was certain of one thing. This wasn't just an inscription. It was a blueprint, a guide to something far more advanced than she had imagined. Amir, too, was drawn deeper into the mystery. He began sketching the slab's patterns onto graph paper, searching for a hidden logic. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the camp settled into a quiet hum, he burst into Lila's tent. "Lila," he exclaimed, holding up his sketches. "I think I've figured it out." Lila looked up from her desk, her eyes weary but alert. "What is it?" "These symbols," Amir said, pointing to the grid. "They're not random. They follow a sequence, a progression. Look, here's Ma'at's feather, and here's the glyph for the heart. But between them are modifiers, variables almost." "Variables?" Lila echoed, leaning in. "You're saying this is what? A calculation?" "A kind of algorithm," Amir said, excitement lacing his voice. "Think about it. The weighing of the heart was meant to determine a person's worthiness to enter the afterlife. But what if it wasn't just a ritual? What if it was an actual process, designed to evaluate someone's moral alignment?" The implications sent a shiver down Lila's spine. But who or what designed it? The ancient Egyptians didn't have the tools for this kind of computational thinking. Amir hesitated. Perhaps they didn't. Perhaps this knowledge came from somewhere else. Lila frowned. you're talking about the Neteru, the gods. Or beings mistaken for gods, Amir said quietly. We've always dismissed those stories as myth. But what if there's a kernel of truth in them? What if the Neteru were real, and they left behind this artifact? The following week, the slab was carefully transported to the team's research lab in Cairo. There, Lila and Amir enlisted the help of Dr. Nadine Abadi, a computational linguist specializing in ancient languages. Nadine was initially skeptical of their claims, but as she studied the slab, her skepticism gave way to astonishment. This isn't just language, Nadine said during one late-night session. This is code. Look at the repetitions, the nested loops. It's a system of logic, encoded in hieroglyphs. Together, the team began to decipher the algorithm. Nadine used machine learning to analyze the glyphs, mapping their relationships and functions. What they uncovered was astounding. The feather algorithm, as they called it, was not only capable of evaluating a person's ethical decisions, but also predicting their future actions. It assigned weighted values to traits like honesty, compassion, and courage, then calculated an overall score that determined moral alignment. It's like an ancient form of AI, Amir said, marveling at the discovery. But instead of silicon chips, they use symbols and metaphors. Lila, however, remained cautious. If this algorithm was so advanced, why did it disappear? Why wasn't it preserved? Maybe it was hidden intentionally, Nadine suggested. Something this powerful could be dangerous in the wrong hands. As they delved deeper, the algorithm's complexity revealed itself. It wasn't limited to individuals. Embedded within its structure was a second layer, a subroutine that analyzed collective behavior, projecting the moral trajectory of entire civilizations. It could predict the rise and fall of empires, the spread of ideologies, even the likelihood of global conflict. It's staggering, Nadine said one evening, staring at her screen. This thing doesn't just understand morality. It predicts the future. One fateful night, while the rest of the city slept, Lila sat alone in the lab, staring at the illuminated slab. Her mind churned with questions. How could a civilization so ancient have created something so sophisticated? And more importantly, what were they meant to do with it now? As she pondered, her gaze fell on a specific glyph, a depiction of Anubis, the jackal-headed god of the dead. She traced the symbol with her finger, feeling a strange connection to it. In the ancient myths, Anubis was the guide of souls, the one who weighed hearts against the feather of Mot. But now, she wondered if he had been something more, a gatekeeper, perhaps, of knowledge far beyond human comprehension. A gust of wind swept through the lab, rattling the windows. Lila shivered, pulling her shawl tighter around her shoulders. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental, something that could change humanity's understanding of itself. But with that knowledge came a chilling realization. The feather algorithm was not just a relic of the past. It was a mirror, reflecting the deepest truths about humanity. And like all mirrors, it could reveal both beauty and darkness. As the first light of dawn crept into the room, Lila made a silent vow. Whatever the algorithm's purpose, she would ensure it was used wisely. For the scales of Mot were not just a measure of judgment, they were a call to balance. And in the end, balance was the only thing that could save them. Cairo's streets buzzed with the cacophony of daily life, honking cars, the chatter of market vendors, and the rhythmic clanging of construction in the distance. Yet, within the Egyptian museum's climate-controlled halls, an atmosphere of hushed anticipation prevailed. The feather algorithm tablet, recently unearthed near Saqqara, had been given a place of prominence under reinforced glass, drawing scholars and enthusiasts from around the world. Dr. Lila Ahmed stood just beyond the exhibit, watching a small crowd gather. Among them were historians, linguists, computer scientists, and even a few journalists hoping for a sensational story. The tablet, with its grid-like inscriptions and cryptic symbols, had become an enigma, a puzzle that promised to unlock secrets about ancient Egypt and perhaps even humanity itself. Beside Lila stood Dr. Amir Hassan, his expression a mixture of pride and concern. "I still can't believe they agreed to put it on display so soon," he said, adjusting his glasses. "It feels premature. They wanted to build interest, Amir, Lila replied. And funding. Let's not forget that part. Amir chuckled, but his unease lingered. While the tablet's public display was a triumph for archaeology, its deeper significance was known to only a select few. Lila and Amir had deliberately withheld certain details from the public. The tablet wasn't just an artifact. It was a system, a set of instructions that could change everything. The small lecture hall adjacent to the museum's exhibit space was packed that evening as Lila prepared to address a crowd of scholars and media. Behind her, a large screen displayed a high-resolution image of the feather algorithm tablet, every glyph rendered in meticulous detail. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "What you see behind me is not just a relic of ancient Egypt. It's a message encoded in a language that transcends time, bridging the gap between mythology and mathematics." The audience leaned in, captivated. The feather algorithm, as we've come to call it, represents the ancient Egyptians' understanding of morality, justice, and balance. But more than that, it's a computational system, a blueprint for assessing the ethical and moral alignment of individuals. A murmur spread through the room. Lila glanced at Amir, who gave her an encouraging nod. Embedded within these symbols is a process, a series of calculations that analyze human traits and decisions. Imagine a program, encoded not in code as we know it, but in hieroglyphs, each glyph a variable, each sequence a function. This isn't just philosophy, it's technology. A hand shot up in the audience. "Dr. Ahmed, are you suggesting that ancient Egypt developed artificial intelligence?" The question lingered in the air, electrifying the room. Lila hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Not AI as we understand it, no. But the principles are similar. This algorithm evaluates actions, intentions, and consequences. It predicts outcomes. In a way, it mirrors the core functions of modern AI." After the lecture, the buzz of conversation filled the museum's corridors. Among those who approached Lila was Dr. Nadine Abadi, a computational linguist whose reputation for innovative work in decoding ancient scripts had earned her acclaim. "This changes everything," Nadine said, skipping formalities. "I read your preliminary paper, and I have to say, it's more than a moral algorithm. Those glyphs, their structure, it's layered." Lila's eyes lit up. "You saw it too?" "Yes," Nadine said. "The first layer is about individuals, but there's a deeper pattern. I'd wager it's collective. It could analyze societal behaviors, perhaps even predict large-scale trends." "Exactly," Amir interjected, stepping into the conversation. "But we haven't been able to decode that second layer yet." Nadine tilted her head. "Then you need help. Let me run this through my models." Over the next few weeks, Nadine joined the team, bringing with her a powerful custom-built AI capable of analyzing ancient languages. The museum's lab became their command center, a place where ancient symbols met cutting-edge technology. As the AI processed the tablet's inscriptions, Nadine's initial hunch proved correct. The second layer of the feather algorithm was indeed collective, designed to assess and predict the moral trajectory of entire populations. This revelation sent shockwaves through the team. "It's astonishing," Nadine said during one late-night session. "This isn't just about predicting individual behavior. It's a social model, one that could foresee the rise and fall of civilizations based on the moral alignment of their people." Amir leaned back in his chair, his face pale. So the myths about Egypt's golden age, about how Mot guided the balance of a world, they weren't just stories. They were data-driven. "And the collapse of dynasties," Lila added, her voice heavy with realization. "It wasn't just politics or war. It was moral imbalance. They lost Mot. The implications were staggering. If the algorithm could predict societal trends, it could also identify tipping points, the moments when civilizations teetered between flourishing and collapse." As the team delved deeper, the algorithm's complexity unfolded like a labyrinth. The first layer, focused on individuals, analyzed inputs such as honesty, empathy, courage, and ambition. It assigned weighted scores to actions, then calculated an overall moral alignment. But the second layer wove these individual scores into a tapestry, creating a predictive map of collective behavior. Using modern datasets, Nadine and Amir tested the algorithm's predictive power. They fed it historical information: the rise of Rome, the collapse of the Mayan civilization, the Industrial Revolution. To their astonishment, the algorithm accurately modeled these events, identifying the moral and ethical imbalances that precipitated each turning point. "This could redefine how we study history," Amir said one afternoon, his voice tinged with awe. "It's not just events or economics. It's morality, our collective sense of justice and fairness." Lila, however, remained cautious. If this falls into the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic. Imagine what governments or corporations could do with the ability to predict societal behavior. Amir nodded solemnly. "You're right. It's too powerful to be used without oversight." Despite her reservations, Lila couldn't deny the algorithm's potential for good. If used responsibly, it could help prevent wars, mitigate social unrest, and guide humanity toward a more just and equitable future. News of the feather algorithm leaked before the team was ready, sparking a media frenzy. Headlines proclaimed it as the ancient Egyptian AI, or the moral algorithm. The world was captivated by the idea that a civilization thousands of years old could possess such advanced knowledge. Governments and corporations clamored for access, seeing the algorithm's potential for governance, market prediction, and even military strategy. Lila's team found themselves at the center of a global ethical debate. During a heated meeting with representatives from various organizations, Lila stood her ground. "This isn't a tool for control," she said firmly. "It's a mirror. It shows us who we are, our strengths, our flaws, and the consequences of our choices. If we use it to manipulate or dominate, we'll only accelerate the chaos it's meant to prevent." Her words resonated with some, but fell on deaf ears with others. The team knew they had to act quickly to protect the algorithm from misuse. They formed a coalition of scholars, ethicists, and global leaders to oversee its application. Dubbed the Mott Initiative, the coalition was tasked with ensuring the algorithm was used for the collective good. Despite their efforts, tension within the team grew. Amir believed the algorithm should be used more proactively, while Nadine worried about its long-term implications. "This isn't just a scientific discovery," Nadine argued one evening. "It's a responsibility. And I'm not sure humanity is ready for it." Lila, caught between their perspectives, turned to the tablet itself. As she studied the ancient symbols, she felt an overwhelming sense of humility. The feather algorithm wasn't just a tool, it was a challenge. A challenge to humanity to rise above its flaws and embrace balance. Late one night, as she gazed at the illuminated tablet, Lila whispered, "What would the ancients have done?" In her heart, she knew the answer. The algorithm was a gift, but it was also a test. And like all tests, it required wisdom, restraint, and a deep understanding of what it meant to be human. The conference room at the heart of the Mott Initiative headquarters buzzed with tension. The feather algorithm had transcended its archaeological origins, becoming the centerpiece of an unprecedented global experiment. Representatives from nations, corporations, and ethical bodies sat around a polished oak table, their voices a chaotic symphony of concern, ambition, and idealism. Dr. Lila Ahmed, flanked by her team, Dr. Amir Hassan and Dr. Nadine Abadi, stood at the head of the table. The algorithm's projections, visualized as intricate charts and graphs, glowed on a large screen behind them. "This isn't about control," Lila began, her voice firm but calm. "The feather algorithm is a diagnostic tool. It reveals the moral trajectory of our societies, showing us where we're balanced and where we're not. It's a reflection, not a prescription." The murmur subsided as the room focused on her. Among the attendees was Secretary General Elena Morales of the United Nations, who leaned forward, her steely gaze fixed on Lila. "But isn't the very act of using it a form of control?" Morales asked. "If governments and corporations can predict societal behaviors, they'll inevitably try to manipulate them." Amir stepped in. "The algorithm doesn't dictate outcomes. It identifies trends and tipping points. For example, it predicted the global financial crisis when we input pre-2008 data. It showed how greed outweighed empathy in economic decisions, leading to systemic collapse." "Exactly," Morales countered. And knowing this, what's to stop someone from exploiting it? The question hung in the air like a storm cloud. Lila exchanged a glance with Nadine, who spoke next. That's why the mod initiative exists, Nadine said. We're creating safeguards, ensuring transparency and ethical oversight. This isn't about giving anyone absolute power, it's about empowering humanity to make better choices. Despite their assurances, the debate raged on for weeks. While some leaders saw the algorithm as a chance to prevent wars and disasters, others feared its misuse. In private meetings, Lila's team faced even greater challenges. Tech giants offered funding in exchange for exclusive access, while intelligence agencies hinted at using the algorithm for surveillance. Lila grew increasingly disillusioned. The algorithm, intended as a guide for moral balance, was becoming a battleground for competing interests. One night, after another grueling day of negotiations, she found herself alone in the lab, staring at the original tablet under its protective glass case. She reached out, her fingers brushing the cold surface. "What were you trying to tell us?" she whispered, addressing the long-dead creators of the algorithm. In the stillness, her mind returned to the dreams she'd been having, dreams of Anubis standing beside the scales, his jackal eyes unyielding. In those dreams, her heart was weighed, and she was always left with a question. Was she worthy? The turning point came when Nadine uncovered the algorithm's ultimate potential. By simulating global scenarios, she found that the feather algorithm didn't just predict outcomes, it also suggested paths to balance. In one scenario, it proposed policies to reduce wealth inequality, mitigating unrest, and fostering long-term stability. In another, it highlighted the importance of environmental stewardship to prevent ecological collapse. "It's not prescriptive," Nadine explained to the team. "It doesn't say, do this. It highlights what could happen if we prioritize certain values: justice, empathy, balance." Amir was ecstatic. This could be the blueprint for a better world. But Lila remained wary. Or it could be the catalyst for unprecedented manipulation. Their discussions grew heated as they debated the algorithm's role. Amir envisioned it as a tool for governance, a way to guide humanity toward a sustainable future. Nadine was more cautious, emphasizing the need for strict ethical boundaries. Lila, caught between their perspectives, questioned whether humanity was ready for such a tool. As the Mott Initiative prepared to unveil its findings, world events took a dark turn. A major economic power experienced a financial collapse, triggering unrest across the globe. In the chaos, factions emerged, some demanding the algorithm's immediate use to restore order, others condemning it as a threat to free will. Lila's inbox was flooded with pleas and threats alike. Activists accused her of playing God, while governments pressured her to release the algorithm's full capabilities. The Mod Initiative was splintering under the weight of its responsibility. One night, as protests erupted outside the initiative's headquarters, Lila convened an emergency meeting. She looked around the room at her colleagues and advisors, their faces etched with exhaustion. "We've spent years deciphering this algorithm," she began. "We've seen its potential for good and for harm. But now we have to decide, do we trust humanity with this knowledge, or do we keep it hidden?" The room fell silent. Amir was the first to speak. "If we hide it, we're no better than those who would exploit it. We have to believe in humanity's capacity to grow." Nadine hesitated. "But what if we're wrong? What if we unleash something we can't control?" Lila closed her eyes, grappling with the weight of their decision. She thought of the scales of Mott, of the delicate balance between order and chaos. Finally, she spoke. "We reveal it," she said. "But we do it on our terms. We don't give it to governments or corporations. We give it to the people, open access, with full transparency. Let them decide how to use it." The Mod Initiative held a global broadcast to unveil the Feather algorithm to the world. Lila stood before the cameras, her heart pounding as she addressed billions. "This algorithm is not a weapon or a tool for control," she said. "It's a reflection of who we are. It shows us the consequences of our choices, the balance, or imbalance of our actions. It's up to us to decide what we do with this knowledge." The algorithm was uploaded to a secure, open-access platform, accompanied by detailed guides on its ethical use. The world's response was immediate and chaotic. Some hailed it as a gift, a chance to reshape humanity's future. Others condemned it, fearing it would erode free will. In the months that followed, the algorithms sparked unprecedented change. Grassroots movements used it to advocate for justice and equality, while scientists employed it to address climate change. Yet, as Lila had feared, it was also exploited. Some governments used it to justify authoritarian policies, manipulating its predictions to serve their agendas. Years later, Lila stood at the base of the Great Pyramid, gazing up at the ancient structure that had inspired her journey. The feather algorithm had transformed the world, for better and for worse. It had revealed humanity's greatest strengths and deepest flaws, challenging people to confront their choices. Nadine approached, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Lila sighed, her gaze unwavering. "I don't know. But I do know this. The feather algorithm didn't make us better or worse. It just showed us who we are. The rest is up to us." As the sun set over the desert, casting the pyramid in a golden glow, Lila felt a sense of peace. The scales of Mott would always be there, weighing humanity's heart. And in the end, balance was not something to be achieved, it was something to strive for.